Salute. What up, boxing YouTube world? I'm Nocturnal Thoughts. This is Boxing After Dark. Um, I just wanted to do a video, a response video to my brother Aries Zodiac. Go check his channel out. Hit the subscribe button. He did a video. I watched it last night. And this is a very, very important video in my opinion. His question, matter of fact, just check out the video. Now, I'm going to answer his question with two stories and a little bit of nocturnal thoughts. Okay? Now, first of all, this video was so important. Excuse me. This video was so important because I very rarely see people in general, but people in boxing, paying homage to the ancestors and the forefounders and the older generation, our generations that came before us in boxing. And for him to make this video and bring attention to all the eras of the heavyweight boxing and boxing period, and to progress his question into what we can do in the future, is a question that had to be asked. Here's two stories that will give you insight into how I think about this. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to bring this full circle, so bear with me. The first story is not my story. So you may have heard it. Most likely Aries Zodiac is a historian, so he's probably heard this story before. But when he asked this question, it's the first story that came to my mind. It was a story from Muhammad Ali. This is when Muhammad Ali was in his prime, when he was new to fame, new to going places and being surrounded by huge crowds. So if you know this story, forgive me. I'm gonna fuck this story up because I heard it so long ago. I tried to search and try to see if I can find an interview of him saying it, but I couldn't find it. So anyway, he's going somewhere and he gets out of the car and he gets mobbed. He gets surrounded by people. Everybody want a piece of him. Everybody want an autograph. Everybody want to shake his hand. Everybody's like, you know, want to meet the champ and say what's up to the champ. And the whole situation, he's Muhammad Ali. He's soaking it all up, enjoying this fame, like all these people, you know, giving me this love. He said at the same time this was happening, Joe Louis was with him, or might have been with him, or he was there. Joe Louis was there. And Joe Louis was trying to get to the place they were going. Maybe they were going inside of a gym or a store or something like that. Like I said, I'm gonna fuck this story up because I can't remember exactly. But Joe Louis is trying to get into the same place he was trying to get into, and he couldn't get into it because he was getting mobbed by a crowd of people, of supporters, of fans. Joe Louis was walking through the crowd with no problem. Nobody even recognized him to turn the head and to acknowledge his presence. And Muhammad Ali says he sees this happening and he can't believe it. And he's like, all these people think I'm great. He had to get their attention and say, whoa, 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 hold up. Do you know who this is? This person that's walking past you that you're not even acknowledging? This is Joe Louis. This is the person that I got all my moves from. You know what I'm saying? As far as my charisma, my mentality, my boxing, my you know what I'm saying? A piece of my Muhammad Ali identity is molded around this person and you people say you love me so much, my idol is walking right past y'all, and y'all not even acknowledging, y'all not even, you know what I'm saying, taking the time to appreciate what's happening before your eyes. A legend is walking through. I'm just a young guy who's just getting into fame. This is a legend that's walking past, and nobody's even recognizing him. That's one story that lets me know the insight, the mentality, out with the old, in with the new. So many people can't appreciate the 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 the, the history. So many people can't appreciate the people that came before them and did it their way. We so worried about doing it our way. And people just ain't shit, to be honest with you. A lot of people just ain't shit, because Muhammad Ali was sitting there kind of took aback by all these supporters and fans, but it sounded like it probably pissed him off. Like, you guys talking about, you guys support me and love me, and this is somebody that I love and idolize, and y'all. I digress. That's one story. Mr. Aries Zodiac, if you heard that story, man, leave me a comment, man, and clean that up for me, because I know I mucked it up. It's been a while since I even thought about that story. The second story, you probably never heard. You definitely never heard, because this story is my story. You know what I'm saying? Unless you go all the way back to like my first video I ever made on YouTube a couple of years ago, you never heard this story. So, you know what I'm saying? This story, especially for Aries Zodiac, and especially for anybody out there that's a historian, or just any young person out there that got some respect. Respect, period. Respect, respect. You know what I'm saying? Respect your elders. We was taught to respect our elders, right? So this is my story. I'm gonna try to make it quick. I'm in about I want to say the sixth grade. I was in the sixth grade, either the fifth or the sixth grade. So I was probably like 10 or 11 years old. I lived in Atlanta, Georgia, in Decatur, Georgia. I was going to elementary school, Tony Elementary, off of Candler Road, and I was coming home late from detention. When I come out of school and out of detention, I'm walking all by myself. This little kid, I never even knew this kid. I don't remember him. He runs up to me and he's like, Muhammad Ali is at the barbershop signing autographs. And I thought he was full of shit. But, I'm right across the street from the barbershop. I'm looking at the barbershop. I don't see nothing happening. But he like, man, follow me, follow me. And he showed me the flyer. He showed me this purple flyer from the barbershop. And he said this little scratch on it was Muhammad Ali's signature. He's like, come over here and come. He was younger than me too. He was smaller than me. So I'm like, all right, let's go. We walk over across the street to the barbershop on Candler Road. And I open the door, and it's like when you open the door, you can see the barbershop is packed. And the line is right up to the door. It's not a line outside the door, it's just a line right when you open the door. The line starts. And he was sitting kind of in the back of the barbershop, and you can see a crowd around him, and you could tell something was happening, but you couldn't see him. But people were standing around him, and they was in suits and everything like that. And there was a line, and everybody had these little barbershop purple flyers. I got me a flyer. I stood in line, and I started getting that feeling like, man, something big is about to happen. I'm about to meet Muhammad Ali. This shit right here don't happen on a regular basis, not even in Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? Back in them times, right? So, long story short, I walk up. I'm this little kid. I get right and stand right in front of Muhammad Ali. He's sitting in a chair, suit on, and I hand him my flyer, and he kind of look up at me. He take the flyer, and he scribble out his name, and I'm looking at him, and it was a moment of clarity for me as a kid that I'm looking at. I know what I'm looking at. I know what I'm looking at, and at the same time in my mind, I'm thinking, "Oh man, yeah, that's right, man. He's older and he's sick, and you know this is what you're looking at. It's like when it was like meeting your grandfather's friend. You know what I'm saying? It's like when you over your grandparents' house and your grandfather said, "I want to introduce you to my friend." And you meet a. It was like that, and it was a moment where I was like, man, I thought that I was going to see something miraculous. I thought I was going to see the aura. I thought I was going to see this guy, and my mind was just going to be shot into a stratosphere, a different dimension, and it was my thoughts were completely reduced down to looking at this older guy shaking when he took the paper and signed his autograph. Nevertheless, I still, when I got the autograph, I'm like, thank you, nice to meet you, sir. Got out the line and I ran straight home. I booked it. So I'm like, I gotta tell somebody. You dig what I'm saying? I gotta tell somebody. Anyways, I run home, I grab my big brother and his best friend, and I'm telling them Muhammad Ali is over at the barbershop, and they not believing me, man. They like, dude, you full of shit. And I'm like, I ain't never been no liar. And my brother knows this. So I'm like, dude, trust me. Muhammad Ali is over at the barbershop. Let's go over there. We shoot across the street. All three of us. We run over there. By the time I convinced him to come over there and go to the barbershop, he's not at the barbershop. He's standing right in front of Piggly Wiggly, the grocery store. And by this time, it's already just this huge amount of people around Muhammad Ali. And I'm watching Muhammad Ali, and you can see glimpses of the young Muhammad Ali kind of coming back playing to the crowd. Like he's walking over here and he's going up on his toes, and he's walking over here and he's doing this. He's doing one of those, and he's shooting little jabs, and he's being Muhammad Ali, and the crowd is loving it. You know what I'm saying? And I'll never forget this guy behind me who's older, probably was a teenager or probably when he's in his 20s or something like that. This guy behind me is yelling at Muhammad Ali. Check this out. This motherfucker is yelling at Muhammad Ali. Mike Tyson would whoop your ass. Mike Tyson would whoop your ass. I'm a kid and I'm looking like, what the fuck? I'm like, this is Muhammad Ali, motherfucker. Like, you can't be in the presence of greatness, of a legend, and appreciate this shit. The first thing that come out your mind and come out your mouth is talking about this older man who's obviously way out of his prime fighting Mike Tyson. You know what I'm saying? What the fuck? And at that moment, I realized once again, some people ain't shit. And some people have no idea how to respect the past, live in the present, and then let the people of the future have the future. So you ask this question. This is the long version, long answer. I don't do small talk. This is the long answer to your question, Mr. Aries Zodiac. My favorite era of boxing between Jack Johnson, you know, Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, George Foreman. I remember we had to go to the video store and rent the Rumble in the Jungle. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't no internet and YouTube back then. Of course, I was born in 1980, so I'm 40 years old, right? 40 years young. I'm 40 years young, and Mike Tyson was in a weird time where, look, we had the regular Nintendo. It wasn't even Super Nintendo. We had the regular Nintendo with Mike Tyson's Punch Out. So of course, for my generation, Mike Tyson was the epitome of boxing at that time. He was like Iron Mike Tyson. He couldn't be broken. He couldn't be defeated. But I also, in my time, seen Buster Douglas, and I seen the decline of Mike Tyson. Really, for me, at my age, the best highlighted moments of boxing was honestly more in the Roy Jones Jr. passing the torch down to the Mayweather era. But as far as the heavyweights, the Mike Tyson era, the Holyfield era, the Michael Moore, the George Foreman. My first pay-per-view fight I remember seeing as a kid in the ghetto, in the hood, was watching George Foreman fight Evander Holyfield, and I never forget it because I remember George Foreman was taking a beating, and he would not sit down in between rounds, and he was man George Foreman salute, man. I mean, that was one of the best fights I ever seen. Even as a kid, I was like, this dude is older, fat. This young dude, muscle bound, just tattooing him and busting him up, and these dudes just keep coming and keep coming. And in between rounds, he's not even sitting down on the stool. Damn, George Foreman was the man. Anyways, so then you go into the Lennox Lewis era. You go into the Klitschko era. You go into the you know Tyson Fury era, along with Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, Joseph Parker, Andy Ruiz. And you ask, what's the best era? In my opinion, what's the most fun era? I'm gonna have to say this. I equally enjoy all the eras of the heavyweight boxing equally, respectfully, equally. But what I love the most is the present. You know what I'm saying? The present is a gift. Every day you wake up to a gift, which is the present. So I love the present day of boxing. I love that Deontay Wilder took an L to Tyson Fury. I didn't like it when I seen it, but I love the fact that Tyson Fury made his comeback and dethroned Deontay Wilder. I love the fact that Anthony Joshua lost to Andy Ruiz and came back and outboxed him. Um, I love the present moment of heavyweight division is the best moment right now. You know what I'm saying? If that answers your question, every moment I enjoy and I appreciate and equally is the best to me. All the way back to Jack Johnson, Rocky Marciano, Floyd Patterson, Sonny Liston, Joe Louis, George Foreman, Ali, Joe Frazier, um, you know, the Burbick era, the Burbick championship time, the Larry Holmes, um, on down to Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield and Buster Douglas beating Mike Tyson, and then Buster Douglas getting his ass beat by Evander Holyfield, and Holyfield fighting Razor Ruddock or Razor Bowl, and all of it in this moments was great. And I don't like to go and try to, what I'm saying, pit one against the other. It's all great equally. But if I had to choose to answer your question, I have to say there's no day like the present, and we have to really enjoy and appreciate the present for what it is with what we have to enjoy. Like, and then to answer your second part of your question, what do we need to happen in boxing to catapult it, sustain it, or elevate it into the future? And that's really a question for the next generation. If you ask me, it's for the young people to know what the young people like. You know what I'm saying? The young people like shit way differently. Like, my son don't give a fuck about boxing. I tried to get him into boxing. I tried to take him to fight, watch the Floyd Money Mayweather versus Conor McGregor. I talked to him about Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson and these things, but he's just not into it. You dig? And I think boxing is turning into one of those sports that's kind of like reserved for a specific audience that's kind of regal, and it's also just for the young cast that's going to be born into it one way or another. Like, this kind of reminds me of like the Kentucky Derby. Like, no young kids is talking about the Kentucky Derby and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? If you're talking about UFC versus boxing, you know, no kids is talking about the PGA golf tour, but golf is still huge. Golf is still a huge, huge, huge sport. The Kentucky Derby is still a huge, huge, huge sport, but you don't hear like the next wave of generations kids talking about it. You know what I mean? And I think boxing is like that. And what changes that is when you have the Neo, the Neo that's born into the Matrix, the person that comes that's born to take boxing into the future. Like Money Mayweather took boxing over, or Roy Jones took boxing over for his generation, like my generation. Floyd Money Mayweather took the torch, and he did what he did, what he had at that time that was available. He had like the show, whatever, I forget what network, but he left the HBO and he did the Showtime, I believe, and they did all the behind the scenes. They did the behind the, you know what I'm saying? They did all those different the shit that we wasn't seeing before, and that's what kept it going. And then like these new kids these days using social media, using Instagram and whatever they use to promote their self, like Devin Haney, the Dream, and King Ryan Garcia. They're using a whole different type of a platform. This fucking bird. If I had a BB gun, I would pick his ass off. But Ryan Garcia and these new kids is using a whole different platform to keep a spotlight on boxing. The heavyweights, I'm gonna tell you what. Even though Aries Zodiac, I know you might, you don't. I stopped talking. He stopped talking. Aries Zodiac didn't really believe in Deontay Wilder because he says Deontay Wilder doesn't have, you know, a rounded, complete set of tools. And I agree with you, but I think Deontay Wilder is what boxing heavyweight needed because you gotta have something. You got to have a it factor that makes people gravitate to you. You have to have some kind of a look and a type of charisma and a type of personality that is unexplainable. You just have the it factor, and it just makes people in mass appeal. You have to have a mass appeal, and Deontay Wilder, in my opinion, has that quality of a mass appeal. Tyson Fury has a mass appeal of quality to him. Anthony Joshua, not so much, but he does. He really does. His boxing has a mass appeal. His personality, I think he has a decent big audience. But as far as like to bring it into the whole future, I think Deontay Wilder, honestly, had that it factor that just when he spoke, it made people pay attention. No matter how, uh, you know, how much ebonics he spoke. He just had a personality. He just had. I think he had a lot of components that came together in a right way outside of boxing. Because the thing about boxing being elevated into the next generation and into the future, you have to have somebody that transcends the sport. You know what I'm saying? Whether they're the best boxer, it doesn't really matter. They have to have something else in their character that transcends the sport of boxing to become legendary and to be talked about, you know, uh, for the next 2, 3 decades. Like, because young people, like I said, I respect your video so much because young people, they forget about the past so quick. Out with the old, in with the new. You know what I'm saying? And what you do, everything, all the work that you put in is going to go to fade into distant, going to fade into memory, fade into dust like that. No matter what you do, no matter what you leave, no matter what legacy you leave, when you gone, that shit maybe last 1, 2 generations and then it's dust. You know what I mean? No matter what you do, who you are, and it's very rare when you have somebody that transcends the sport into all kind of aspects of life to where his legacy lasts so much longer. Like a Muhammad Ali, still to this day, some people gonna say Muhammad Ali was the best boxer ever because he transcended the sport. Some people know about Muhammad Ali, don't know shit about the Rumble in the Jungle and the Rope a Dope and how many times he actually got beat and things of that nature, or Cassius Clay. They don't even know about this shit. They just know Muhammad Ali is just the greatest of all time because he transcended the sport. Mayweather transcended the sport. He's just too, he's not he's young now. He's still young. He's our age, my age. He's like 43. I'm 40 years old. You dig? Um, and these young cats, they're not appreciating our generation like that. Like they look at Roy Jones, and I look at Roy Jones as like, man, Roy Jones, he didn't got old. Mike Tyson didn't got old. Um, it's like I remember I was at the gym and I got, I'm kind of I still got some juice. I ain't old. I'm not old. We in that midlife point. Like Aries Zodiac, I think, judged off your personality and everything, you about the same age as me. And you're Aries. I'm an Aries too. So you probably born somewhere in that March vicinity. You dig what I'm saying? Anyways, and you in good shape. So I know you can rumble with these young kids and teach them a thing or two about a thing or two. I'm in the gym one time with this little kid. This kid is like 18 years old. But he tall. He tall and he big and he big for a kid. You know what I mean? And he got a big mouth. He a cool kid, but for some reason, because I got in the gym, I'm a young soul in the gym. For some reason, he would talk to me as if we was peers, like we was equals. And I'm like, dude, we not peers, we not equals. I'm old enough to be your dad. I'm 40 years old. I'm 40 years old, and you like 17 years old. You know what I'm saying? And you talking a whole different language. Like I remember one time he tried to have a debate with me or argument with me, and he was comparing at the time. He was comparing. Check this out. He was trying to tell me that Tekashi 69 was greater than Tupac. Tupac. And I'm talking to this young kid like, look, I'm not going to debate with you about this shit. You come find me in 20 years and you tell me what you think about Tekashi 69 versus Tupac. And this was way before Tekashi 69 was a snitch and got out. But this was like last year or 2 years ago or something like that. This is when Tekashi first came out, and this dude was going crazy about Tekashi 69. He was like this, and this. And I'm like, dude, I heard and seen this shit before. And I'm like, Tupac is hip hop. You know what I mean? And he transcended hip hop. He got people study Tupac in college. People take college courses to study the life of Tupac. Nobody ain't gonna be studying no fucking Tekashi 69 in 20 years. Nobody even gonna be saying his name in 20 years. You know, it's already been. Anyways, I digress. You know what I'm saying. So to answer your question, to this era of boxing is great, of heavyweights, and I have to appreciate them. You know what I'm saying? And that's damn near all I got to say about that, man. Because I hate people. I hate people that can't respect the past and respect the elders. And I hate people, and I hate old people that can't let go of their time and let the young people do their thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm in the middle. I'm in the middle, so I see it from both ways. And I'm like, man, the future of boxing is going to be in the young people's hands, and what they're going to need is a star that's going to come and do things the way these young kids do things. Like Adrian Broner came in, and he was he was getting all these, you know, followers and this big fan base, not because of his boxing, but because of his boxing, his dancing, his tour with T.I. and Soldier Boy, and you know what I'm saying, and he was doing the shit the way young people do it. He was trying to make a new blueprint. Unfortunately, he wasn't 100% dedicated to his craft, so he crashed and burned. But at the same time, the future of boxing, what we would need in the heavyweight division, in my opinion, we needed uh, a figure and a mentality like a Deontay Wilder. Even though he didn't have the full tool set, what with Deontay Wilder, his deficiencies in his ability of being a boxer, to me is no different than Mike Tyson, who was a very schooled, disciplined destruction machine, lacked and had the same amount of deficiencies in his mentality as a person being a fractured emotional person. So you take the good with the bad. Deontay Wilder mentality was strong. He had this strong mentality of speak it, believe it, and receive it, and make these things happen, and make it to the top of Mount Everest with the least amount of tools possible. All I got is a right hand. I'm gonna make it to the top and stay at the top and defend it 10 times. That's a mental strength that I had to respect, even though he didn't have the full tool set. Then you take Tyson, Deontay, Mike Tyson. You take Mike Tyson, who had customato, who had extremely great genetics and the ability to knock people out with both hands, but mentally he couldn't cope with so many things in his life. I mean, the second act of his life is a lot better, and he's doing a lot better, and I'm happy to see that. But he was on a mission to destroy himself. So there you have it. I mean, nobody's perfect, and Deontay Wilder wasn't perfect, and I still think he has a shot to come back, win against Tyson Fury, and elevate heavyweight boxing into the future with the type of mentality that he has. And then we'll see who takes the torch from that point and what they're going to be doing to appease the blood-lusting crowd of the future of boxing. You dig? Video is long, man, but your videos be long too. So now we even Steven. Nocturnal thoughts to Aries Zodiac. To answer your question, my favorite era of boxing is today's era. But I enjoy and appreciate all of them equally. Salute.